Orlovsky. Let's get it started with you, beginning with the Jets, Jets.
Well, Greeny, Gang Green is now Gang Glenn as the Jets hire their former first-round draft pick, Aaron Glenn, to be the new leader of their franchise. Played for the Jets, worked in their personnel department, and now will be the man in charge of this franchise. A major loss for the Detroit Lions is a major gain for the New York Jets, who still need to add a general manager, solve their quarterback situation, figure out what's going on with Aaron Rodgers. But for now, they got the head coach they wanted in Aaron Glenn. As for the Tennessee Titans, they hold the #1 pick in the draft, and they gave us some hints yesterday as to the direction that they will go. The team president, Chad Brinker, said that they are looking for a generational talent at #1, and they're also open to moving off of #1. Those two statements tell you that they are not locked in to taking a quarterback at #1. The draft is going to be interesting. As for the Philadelphia Eagles and their quarterback, Jalen Hurts, he intends to play Sunday's NFC Championship game against the Washington Commanders, despite the fact that he suffered a knee injury against the Rams on this play, went out of the game, was a limited participant in Wednesday's walkthrough practice. Saquon Barkley said he expects Jalen Hurts to be Jalen Hurts, but we don't know exactly what Jalen Hurts will be and how healthy he'll be out there on Sunday. And we may not know until we actually get to see him against the Commanders. But he could certainly not be at full strength, and that would impact the Eagles' offense.
All right, so let's stop there for a moment and dive into that. We saw him limping there, and those are the kinds of things I've heard from you guys all the time. Adrenaline takes over, you finish the game, and then the next day you feel a whole lot worse, and we will see. So, Dan, let's live in a world, I think we all assume, that unless he absolutely can't move, he's going to play, right? This is the NFC Championship.
Jalen Hurts is going to play.
He's going to play. But in the event that his mobility is severely limited, which obviously is a huge part of his game, what impact does that have on the Eagles' chances of going to the Super Bowl?
It hurts their run game big time. If you go back to the last time these two teams played, when Jalen Hurts got hurt, I remember the next morning on this very show saying, I have not seen a defensive line dominate the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line the way that Washington's did, the way that they created penetration. You don't get this when Jalen Hurts is the game, how significant they were with hitting Saquon Barkley in the backfield, how many times they made him stop his feet in the backfield. So often, Saquon's the guy getting 3 or 4 yards downfield before even coming close. And without Jalen Hurts, you can see that this defensive line teed off, and the whole goal was get penetration, go upfield, don't worry about a zone read or a quarterback keep or a designed quarterback run. And if Jalen Hurts doesn't play, this defensive line in Washington will have that same mindset of we are going to get after this offensive line and try to create as much chaos in the backfield as possible.
So, but again, as we agree, he's going to give it a go. So now you're a defender in this game, J-Mac. How are you? You're going to figure out as quickly as you can, right? Is he going to tuck it and run at some point? And if he doesn't, then what does the defensive strategy become?
Well, now we can completely focus on Saquon Barkley. And to your point, Dan, if Jalen's in there, I'm going to ask him to keep that ball and run with it. If not, we're fully committing. And the thing with Saquon, people talk about loading the box or not. The issue is when guys don't do their assignments. That's what you're going to see here. For the Washington Commanders in Week 16 playing against the Eagles, they have every gap filled. But right here, Dante Fowler jumps in the next gap.
Do it.
And Saquon Barkley is so patient. He is going to wait for you to make a mistake. And then as corners, you got to crack replace. The wide receiver comes in there and blocks. You can't wait for a day to get up there if you don't make that tackle. Then here, Bobby Wagner in the middle of the screen. He's coming in. He jumps into the other gap because he sees where Saquon Barkley is. So you're trying to get to him. But that fast, he jump cuts and he gets to the other side of the field. We used to say it on defense. Everybody is at the point of attack when it comes to Saquon. Look at Jared Verse on the outside on the right side of your screen. He folds all the way over into the interior of the defense. Where does Saquon Barkley go? Exactly where his body should have been. And if you leave him one-on-one with anybody in the NFL, you can strike the band. He's going to bang his head on the goalpost because he is scoring a touchdown.
Teddy Bruschi always says playing linebacker is playing running back. You're reading it, and you're running to the same gap that the running back is running it to. And so, Harry, that brings us to your favorite subject, which is those outstanding receivers of the Philadelphia Eagles who are doing a lot of blocking and a lot of reading and not a whole lot of catching passes. Does this all of a sudden, if Jalen Hurts' knee limits what he's able to do athletically, And all of a sudden now they're able to tee off on that running game. Does this mean all of a sudden this could become an A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith game?
Well, first, before I answer your question, shout out to A.J. Brown on that nice crack block. You know, basically giving up his body to make sure Saquon
Doing a lot of
Barkley
that.
gets an explosive run. But at the same time, if I'm Washington, I'm forcing the issue. So now the pass game becomes a factor, right? But also, I will say this about their pass game. It's so vanilla.
Yeah.
So much so to the point to where teams know exactly the route combinations that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to run. And I got a play right here. When they played the Washington Commanders the last time, watch Frankie Louvu fake like he's going to the flat and then back up and pick off the ball on that spot route to A.J. Brown. That's because they know exactly what's going to happen. But for Jalen Hurts, if you're hampered in this matchup, and if Washington, I believe they need to force the issue. If he's not pulling that football and running it, you got to go to the pass game.
Let's also be honest, okay? Philadelphia should win this game whether Jalen Hurts is 100% or not. The only area Washington is better is quarterback. That's the only spot. Philadelphia is the best roster in football, arguably.
Agreed.
So yes, it's impacted, no question about it. But this is a football team that is better on the offensive line, on the defensive line, at the wide receiver position, at the running back position, at the linebacker position, and the secondary.
Yep.
This is a better, like, and it's okay for Philly to say this. And also, Philly, your path is like way easier than you thought it was going to be 2 weeks ago. You don't have to go to Detroit. You don't have to play the Lions. You get to play the game at home versus a rookie quarterback. So while we're having the conversation of Jalen not playing, you're the much better football team or much talented roster. The only place Washington can claim is quarterback.
That this rookie quarterback
Speak on it,
has done things that nobody else has ever done. And if he can do it again on Sunday, he becomes the first rookie quarterback ever to lead his team to the Super Bowl. And let's not mince any words here. He would be leading this team to the Super Bowl because this is a team that had the second worst record in football last year, and this is a team that a year later is now in the NFC Championship game because of this guy. It's all about this guy. And so, yes, the Eagles are the better team. Better lines, better talent, better depth, better everything. But the quarterback is so transformational that he could elevate everybody.
I mean, he puts himself,
and somehow find a way to get this team to the Super Bowl.
He puts himself in a very rare conversation.
We're going to dive into him as we continue as well. Remember, 5 weeks ago, these teams played each other, and Jaden Daniels threw 5 touchdowns in that win. Again, it's a game that Hurts barely played because he got the concussion early in the game. One other factor, you mentioned all the other places where the Eagles are better. One of those is the secondary. Part of that is Quinyon Mitchell, the sensational rookie corner. He's not healthy. What do we know about his status?
Also plans to play, and also we'll see how effective he is out there. Again, a cornerback with a shoulder, not quite the same thing as a quarterback with a knee trying to run the tush push. But Quinyon Mitchell plans to play, was limited in practice yesterday. And if you're limited in practice in the middle of the week before the NFC Championship game, even if it is an estimation and a walkthrough, he is expected to be out there.
All right, so look, I mean, let's cut directly to the chase here, okay? The question that we're really asking is, if because of whatever circumstances there are, the knee's not right, he's not able to run with it, they're able to load up on Saquon and somehow limit him in a way that he has barely been limited all season long, and this game becomes a question of can Jalen Hurts and the passing game win it and send Philadelphia to the Super Bowl? Will they do it?
I do not have faith in that. If this somehow becomes a one-dimensional offense where you have to throw the football on the way to the Super Bowl, I do not think that pass game is good enough right now. My caveat to that is it ain't going to happen.
You don't expect that?
No one's done it. I think that's Philadelphia. Philadelphia's going to – every game they won.
The Commanders got them into a shootout 5 weeks ago. How many points? He got 5 touchdowns.
A shootout.
What, did he score 40 points?
Yes. A shootout is very different than stopping it.
Yeah.
You still got to stop the run, and no one has. And if you're Philadelphia,
so what you're saying is that even in a high-scoring game, the Eagles will stay true to their offense and continue running it with Saquon.
100%. The only way they don't stay true to it is if Washington jumps them, and I just don't believe that's going to happen.
And I look at it as sometimes we look at the passing game from Jalen Hurts and saying, well, can it get them over the hump with the expectation that in order to do that, it has to be a 300-yard passing game. I'm with you in the sense of if Saquon Barkley rushes for 120 yards and Jalen Hurts goes out there and he's 17 of 24 for 200 yards and he has those explosive plays down the field, like one he should have had to A.J. Brown last week, but he drops the ball, that is enough to win this football game. It doesn't have to be a Super Bowl performance that Jalen Hurts put up throwing the ball for them to win this game.
This game's way more on Philly's defense. than it is on Philly's offense.
Stopping Jaden.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And if you go back to that game that they played, a month ago, Philadelphia's defense did stuff in that game that they've not done all season long, and I would expect it to change.
There was crazy plays in that game that kind of happened throughout of just kind of shooting yourself in the foot of messing up, and now it ends up in those situations that they were in.
Crazy plays happen. That's
True.
That's
Good
how
point.
teams we don't expect wind up in the Super Bowl. As we approach the bottom of the hour, we welcome many of you who have been watching the tennis and all that. This is Get Up. We are in New York City after a thrilling 3-set match. Madison Keys knocking out Iga Swiatek. We're talking football here in New York. Let's keep it rolling with a game of more or less as we look to the AFC Championship game this weekend, the Chiefs and the Bills. Patrick Mahomes, passing touchdowns. Dan, 1.5 is the over-under. You going more or less?
Come on, I'm going more. This guy in this situation is stone cold. And I think even though this Buffalo defense is fantastic, they get a lot of takeaways. I think down in those red zone, we're going to get the Andy Reid trickery, the creativity, him and Travis Kelce being able to make things happen, Noah Gray being a viable threat on the move. Patrick Mahomes, I'm going to say more.
J-Mac, Travis Kelce, we have 69.5 as the total on his receiving yards. You going more or less?
I'm going less on this one. I know Travis Kelce has killed the Buffalo Bills throughout the playoffs, but I think he is going to be the focal point for them in the secondary. This is a Buffalo Bills team that has played more man-to-man coverage as of late. In that first matchup, he had a cornerback, Christian Benford, across from him a lot. I think they focus on shutting Travis Kelce. Maybe they're able to actually do it for once.
Harry, Josh Allen's rushing total is 49.5 yards. You going more or less?
Yeah, I'm going more. In 2 of the last 3 games versus the Kansas City Chiefs, he has hit over this number. We see that 4th down miraculous play right there for a touchdown in the last matchup that they gave Kansas City their first loss. Josh Allen is going to bring the cape out when he needs to bring that cape out. And if he has to utilize his legs, he's going to do so.
Okay, so let's talk about Josh Allen for a moment here. Dan, you were sitting right in that seat at the beginning of December, and you said Josh Allen was about to begin a stretch that was going to define his legacy. Here he is now. Moment of truth, Kansas City. What's at stake?
Biggest moment of his career, biggest game of his career. You got to go get it done. You got to go knock off the Giant. Patrick's the Giant. No one cares about your stats in this game. You have to go into the belly of the beast and take him down. You got to go be Rocky and knock out Drago. That's what it is. And they know it and he knows it. Remember, Peyton Manning did not become Peyton Manning until he beat Tom Brady when?
2006?
In the playoffs.
Right. Yeah.
You got to go get it done. This is your best chance. It's the most complete football team you have. It's the most vulnerable Kansas City's been in relation to how you can compete against them. Josh Allen, if you want to be remembered for something more than like, hey, you were a good player, you got to go knock off Patrick Mahomes.
And you brought up Rocky and Drago, and you also brought up Peyton Manning. When he finally slayed Tom Brady in the postseason, that was when his career went to the next level and allowed him to be Peyton Manning and have all these commercials and the Manning cast and everything else that comes along with the postseason success and Super Bowl glory that he had. Josh Allen needs to take that step. He's played Patrick Mahomes 3 times in the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes has beaten him in the playoffs all 3 times. There's never been a quarterback in the history of the NFL who's won 4 postseason matchups against another quarterback.
Wow.
So either Josh Allen is going to take the step that he needs and build and cement his legacy, or he's going to be the guy that no matter how great he is, always loses to Patrick Mahomes in the postseason.
It's so fascinating. The words you choose sometimes are so interesting because what Rex would say, Rex Ryan always says, the Chiefs have never beaten Josh Allen. They've beaten the Bills, but they've never beaten Josh Allen.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is it doesn't make a bit of difference how well
It's on Josh Allen.
He's got to win the game.
This is coming from me, the ultimate quarterback defender.
My point is he walked off the field with the lead with 13 seconds left in Kansas City once upon a time.
You got to get it done, dude.
But all that will be remembered is whether he wins or not. That's what I'm saying.
It's about quarterbacks.
Right. So whether he throws for 87 yards and they win on an interception or whether he throws for 500 yards, they need to find a way to finally go in there. And
we watched it a week ago. Josh Allen didn't put the cape on against the Baltimore Ravens. He made the right decisions in the right moments, and they end up victorious, and Lamar Jackson's the one going home. For this game, you look at where Josh is in his career. He has the most playoff wins without a Super Bowl start of any quarterback. It's time. You look at it the past year, they brought Stephon Diggs over. He was the guy that was supposed to get them over the hump. They go into this season, they let him go. Josh Allen has played the best football of his career. This just feels like for this Buffalo Bills team, for Sean McDermott as well, it's like this is what it has to be. And for Josh Allen, it's moments like this to me when he's playing against the Kansas City Chiefs, when he runs the ball more, when they get in the red zone and he's just ducking his head and then he's flexing to the camera. They have to find a way to beat this team in the playoffs, because I think the crazy thing about it is he continues to do it in the regular season.
Yeah.
He's won the last 4 regular season matchups, and fans look at it and they're just like, we don't care anymore.
That's why I believe in Josh Allen this time around, because of his growth at the quarterback position this season. You look at the Buffalo Bills, they're the best team in taking care of football. They only have 8 giveaways coming into the playoffs. Red zone, you look at Josh Allen, how he's a red zone threat. When they get in 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, we all know what's coming. It's quarterback sneak from Josh Allen. I like that adjustment from Joe Brady from previous years, being able to make sure that they pick up these short yardage plays and have an advantage. But when Patrick Mahomes make a mistake, like he did in that first matchup and threw an interception on the first drive, the reason why teams have not beaten Patrick Mahomes in playoff settings is because they don't capitalize on those things.
Right.
You got to go score touchdowns when Mahomes makes mistakes.
And this game's going to come down to the late fourth quarter. One of these Hercules quarterbacks is going to make a play.
Yeah.
That's how this game is going to go. Also, if we're being very honest, this dude's been dumped on a lot. He's been trashed on
Allen?
a lot. Absolutely. If we're talking about the big 4 in the AFC quarterback-wise, Patrick's the one that's always been lauded, rightfully so. And then Joe Burrow's been the guy. They're like, oh, my gosh, Joe Burrow's the assassin. He's the one.
Yeah.
Very rarely do people kind of minimize the play. And then Lamar Jackson's the 2-time MVP, and he's the guy. Josh has always been the one that, oh, you didn't do good enough here, or you got a lot of turnovers here, or your reckless style
See,
of
I would
play
say
is
that
here.
guy is Lamar, though. That's the guy
too.
to me.
No, Lamar,
that gets
no,
dunked on.
very rarely
I think
has.
it's Lamar first, then Josh Allen.
Lamar's been knocked down the way Josh, absolutely not.
But you know what silences all this? He wins this weekend, and you're not talking about any of it.
Absolutely.
Okay? It all goes away.
That's the point. Let's not get sidetracked into which of that. He's the last one standing. Like, he's the last one who's got the shot at Mahomes. This was supposed to be, I think it was supposed to be Lamar Jackson's year. Last year was supposed to be Lamar Jackson's year. It's Josh who goes in there with a chance to do it. And the reality is, look, there's so many pieces to this story. But I think it's worth mentioning that going back to last Christmas, so Christmas of 2023,
Yes.
the Chiefs have only lost 1 game that they tried to win.
Against this team.
And this is the team that beat them. Is that significant? Like, does Buffalo have something no one else does? That's a literal statement. They've lost 2 games since then. One of them was the last game of this past regular season. They didn't play anybody. Outside of that, they won their last 2 regular season games last year. They swept the playoffs, obviously. And they only lost 1 game this year, and it was to Buffalo.
Doesn't
My point
matter.
is there something they know how to do that everyone else doesn't know how to do?
No, I think that both these teams are evenly matched. I think both of these teams are. Buffalo is very capable. Both the style of offense that they can play, they can control the line of scrimmage with their offensive line. Like, I'll tell everybody right now, if Kansas City's defense doesn't stop the 6 offensive lineman run game for Buffalo, the game won't be close. Okay, like if you ask Spags, what do you got to stop? You know this. You got to go stop that. But I do think that they're uniquely built to handle the line of scrimmage offensively, but also defensively take advantage of some of the tackle issues that Kansas City's had. And there's 3 or 4 teams in the league that when their quarterback stands across the sideline and looks to the other side, believes and knows and is proven, I'm as good.
Yeah.
And that gives them at least a fighting chance.